From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt. This is Whether or Not. It's Monday, December 8th. And here's what we have going on in our outline for today. Snow amounts from this weekend. We had periods of heavy snow in southeastern South Dakota, stretching into northwestern Iowa during the day on Saturday. Started to get some heavier snow trends there around the late morning hours, 11 o'clock into the early part of the afternoon, lasting until 2, maybe 3 o'clock for some of us. So we'll take a look at some of the snowfall amounts from Saturday in southeastern KELOLAND. And we do have some strong wind on the way for tomorrow. I think the wind will increase as we do go through the day tomorrow. We'll have wind gusts over 50, maybe over 60 miles per hour in the western South Dakota. In the meantime, we'll also watch our temperatures warm, close to freezing for today in southeastern KELOLAND, into the 40s for tomorrow. So we're interested to see how that will behave with what's going on with our snow depth, how much of that do we lose, and how much loose snow will we still have to see areas of blowing snow as these winds do increase later in the day for tomorrow and tomorrow evening, and we'll continue to follow the ups and downs we have in our weather pattern. These next couple of days will be up when it comes to temperatures. Here's Futurecast, 5 o'clock this afternoon, trying to bring in clearing skies in eastern South Dakota. I think we will have periods of sunshine in the east and the southeast, and then we do warm. Tonight we could have steady or maybe slowly warming temperatures as we go through the overnight hours. And look what happens for tomorrow. That's rain trying to show up across northern KELOLAND. This pink here, northeastern South Dakota, that could still be that wintry mix during the morning hours. And then we'll have to watch and see how far south maybe a couple of these rain showers end up. This is at noon for tomorrow. Futurecast trying to bring in a shield of rain here, rain showers in eastern South Dakota, numbers in the 30s, maybe some lower 40s. And then by 5 o'clock, the front moves through. The winds increase in eastern, southeastern KELOLAND. During the day, we'll have strong wind in western South Dakota. In fact, let's talk about that wind. It will be light for today, more of a southerly direction, 5 to 15 miles per hour. It's as we do get into tomorrow, we'll start to see stronger winds during the morning hours in western and central South Dakota. Things eventually transition into eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. This is a snapshot of one of the short-term models that we like to look at, and it's showing these wind gusts over 60 miles per hour for tomorrow in western South Dakota. During that commute home, eastern, southeastern KELOLAND, we could see these wind gusts over 30, over 40, and it will continue to increase as we get into the early part of the evening, early part of the overnight. This is just before midnight tomorrow, showing these wind gusts over 50 miles per hour, central, eastern, southeastern KELOLAND. And with the snow that we have on the ground, as I mentioned before, we'll have to see what happens, how it behaves as these temperatures will warm to the 40s to see areas of blowing snow across eastern, southeastern KELOLAND due to the strong winds. So we have a high wind watch. This goes in effect tomorrow evening, western and central South Dakota. Again, keep in mind the strong winds of over 50, over 60 miles per hour for some in the western South Dakota. Forecast today, we'll have temperatures in the 30s, 40s, and 50s across western KELOLAND. And then for tonight, temperatures will fall to the 20s to near 30 degrees. Coming up in the next segment, we'll talk about the snow that we received over the weekend as some pretty decent amounts fell yet again in southeastern South Dakota and into northwestern Iowa. Stay tuned. You're watching Whether or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. It's time to talk about these snow amounts. And, we usually say that, these clippers will move through. They'll average around 1 to 4 inches of snowfall. Some spots a little more, some spots a little less. It seems like the past couple of clippers that have moved through, we've had these areas where the snowfall amounts have been rather heavy. Let's go ahead and say it, rather heavy. And this past weekend was one of those instances, heavier just to the south of Sioux Falls. And Here's a look at some of the snowfall reports from this latest system on Saturday. Now, the official report just shy of 5 inches in Sioux Falls, but you do see the southern side of the city. We have the 7-inch report coming in right in the middle of downtown. Just to the south, Harrisburg at around 7.5. Here's a 10.5 or just over that for T. Another report coming in at 9 inches for T. Lennox coming in at 8. As you see, Canton coming in close to 9.5, and Brian will say the same thing for Canton's snowfall amount. Now, it did start to lessen a little near Beersford, but still around 6. Hayward, 6.3. Vermilion coming in at around 4.5 of snowfall for them. Yankton at 4. And northwestern Iowa, the amounts here, Sioux Center, 7.5. Orange City, 6.5. And you see how the amounts across northwestern Iowa and north central Iowa, we had amounts range anywhere from 2-4 inches, some spots a little more, some spots a little less. And then as we look into southwestern Minnesota, we had amounts here around 1 to 3. So the amounts did taper off rather quickly, but there was that decent band of some heavier snows that moved through. And you can see through this map too. See those orange dots we have from Mitchell? Should mention Mitchell. They had about 4.5 inches of snowfall. And to the east, and then it had some heavier bands develop there into northwestern Iowa. Mentioned Orange City at 6.5 inches of snowfall there. Sioux Center pretty close to that too, coming in 7.5 for a snow depth. And then you can see how we get these red dots to continue in the parts of central Iowa. Ames coming in with snowfall amounts there, the depth at around 6.5 inches. So that continued across to the east in the eastern Iowa and northern Illinois. So let me go ahead and expand this view. You could see that band of heavier snow southeastern South Dakota through Iowa and into northern Illinois with this latest snow that moved across the area. Now, we do have our steady chances for precipitation in the forecast as we do go forward. That is something that we will talk about after we talk about this strong wind. And I'll be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens coming up right after the break. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Whether or Not. Strong wind, Brian. Well, first of all, how was your weekend?
Well, busy. We had a lot of things going on Saturday, like a lot of people do.
Right.
Busy time of the year. But yeah, a lot of snow too to drive through. I think my house might have had the epicenter of the whole thing.
Which was?
We had over 10 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a lot of snow for a clipper. That's what you call a clipper on firing on all cylinders.
You know, I thought about that this weekend, too, and I mentioned this to you right away. I go, Brian, you know, these clippers are not following the book. These clippers are not 1 to 4 inches and we're done. Yes, I know some areas got 1 to 4, but it seems like, you know, these higher totals are over 6.
Yep.
Over these past couple of clippers that have run through.
We knew going in we'd have at least some pockets of 6 inches of snow. That was the forecast on Friday, 2 to 5, and then pushing east into Iowa, parts of southern Minnesota. And indeed, Rock Valley ended up with, I think, around 9 inches of snow. So we did get that push. But right over Lincoln and Minnehaha counties, there was just that extra oomph right where a fairly major population basis is in our viewing area. And, of course, the official total for Sioux Falls, if you go by the books, 4.8. So not nearly as much at the airport. And I know Renner had 4. Del Rapids was, probably closer to 2.5?
Yeah, as you move your way north, Brookings ended up with 1 to 2. But as you mentioned, yeah, it was that densely populated area in southeastern South Dakota, southern Sioux Falls into Lincoln County. We're looking at those amounts. You know, you could say anywhere from 6 to, you said you had 10.
Yeah.
You could find some areas in there, anywhere from 6 to 10, that little area. And it did move into northwestern Iowa, some 6-inch reports showing up into those locations too.
Yeah. So consider that for a moment. And as we bring up the first map here in our discussion about winds, okay, so the snow depth map, this is the latest on that as of Monday morning. And you can see that northeast South Dakota, we got a lot of reporting stations up here, over 8 inches of snow on the ground, a very significant batch of snow, northwest Iowa, down toward Ames, Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, and extending into northern Illinois. So that seems to be kind of the favored snow belt. Now, we are forecasting temperatures to warm up ahead of this clipper. And here's what this boils down to. I am calculating, Scott, I think probably around Sioux Falls, we're going to have about 8 or 9 hours of melting.
Of good melting.
Good melting tomorrow, 8 or 9 hours. The question is that long enough to cook the snow as it comes through and we get a crust and we settle that snow to some degree, and then the wind arrives? There's no question there's going to be a lot of wind on the backside of that clipper. Plus, don't forget about the rain, too. I know we've been mentioning that in the Northeast, but strong wind, definitely the setup here. So here's the wind forecast. During the day tomorrow, we're going to start off in the morning with a southwest wind, probably 15 to 25 miles per hour. Not terribly strong in Sioux Falls, but in the Northwest, it's going to pick up big time in the afternoon. That wind up toward Buffalo will likely be 50 plus. And here it comes. It's going to be roaring in from the Northwest. We're going to get anywhere from 40 to 60 mile an hour winds in the mid to late afternoon from Watertown, South Dakota, all the way to Rapid City. The numbers, I think that does a lot of the communication of what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Those are big numbers, Scott.
They are. And it's as we go through the day, the wind will pick up. And by the time we do get into the evening hours, eastern, southeastern, KELOLAND, keep in mind, too, this is after sunset. We'll see some of our strongest winds during that time for the east and for the southeast. And we're talking some of those wind speeds over 50, maybe over 60 miles per hour. So if you have any of those outdoor Christmas decorations, especially the ones that blow up, right? You know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind as to what's going on with these winds. And I'm sure a lot of you that do have those types of decorations, you do keep the wind in mind.
Right.
Keep them tethered down, maybe not even blow them up.
You don't want them to get torn and ripped and blown into somebody else's yard. And I've got a couple things. I don't have anything like that, but we do have a few things that I definitely will be probably taking down today or early tomorrow. These wind numbers, Scott, late in the evening. Okay, if you really want to know what's going on behind the scenes here, the barometric pressure on the low that's north of the Twin Cities is deepening pretty rapidly tomorrow evening. And as a result, the pressure gradient, the difference between high and low pressure, is tightening. And it's a very conducive environment. Are those numbers far-fetched?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
I really don't. I think so we're going to get 60-mile-an-hour winds. The question, the biggest question, like I'll go back to circle back around, what is that snow going to look like? And I've been trying to wrestle with this all morning because I'm figuring in my yard, Scott, I got 10 inches of snow, 12 inches maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood. I probably had 2 inches of old snow.
Okay.
And, I figure it's going to melt, it's going to settle, but it is a very difficult thing to predict just how much, and then what does that kind of wind do to that? I think there'll be some blowing and drifting. I'm going to take a wild guess and say if it's bad, it's probably going to be my house because I've got some of the deepest snow on the ground.
Snow there. So you want to see maybe that rain shower at midday.
Oh, anything.
Just to compact it a little bit more. Help it settle.
Absolutely. Rain is great. You get 10, 20 hundredths of rain, that'll help. But through the years, I've seen this go both ways. We've been here long enough. I've been through these systems before. A lot of times it'll be an older snow, a crusty snow, and you'll get a forecast like this. And I don't remember what year it was, but I remember probably in the first 5 years that I worked at Kelo, there was an event, a clipper like this, and it came up out of the Northwest with, I remember Mobridge and Aberdeen, and thinking that the forecast was the crust was going to hold. And I remember being here with Jay in the afternoon, and we were compiling the numbers and looking through stuff. And I'm like, well, it looks like it's going to be really strong wind, but, we were banking on that crust holding, and the Weather Service was kind of in line. And anyway, as we started getting 60-mile-an-hour winds,
it breaks it.
It just couldn't hold it. No, and it broke loose, and then it dug out the snow underneath, and then it became a ground blizzard. So it is tricky. If you're sitting with only 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, and you're west of Sioux Falls, you're probably going to be fine. It's just some folks like me and maybe locally around Sioux Falls where it's just not a guarantee that we're going to be able to keep all that snow settled. I hope we will, but my encouragement is just check back in on the weather. That's going to be the most logical thing you can do. And trust me, we will be here. We've got several things to watch here in the Storm Center, and Hopefully, then Scott will be able to put that story aside by Wednesday.
Yeah, and then
Get to the next one, right?
And then the cold comes in.
my.
We'll talk about that coming up. But in the meantime, we have these high wind watches, and just expect these headlines to expand to the east
Yes.
for tomorrow, whether it's, wind advisory, high wind warning, whatever it is. Just expect wind headlines for tomorrow. But I did want to get this in. Starts western, eventually in the central South Dakota, and then we'll watch things as they do expand across into parts of eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. And keep in mind, too, Brian, you mentioned, too, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the snow, what the Weather Service thinks will happen with the snow. We could get winter weather advisories for blowing snow.
Absolutely.
And if you're talking ground blizzard conditions, we could get that as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think a winter weather advisory is very plausible for blowing snow.
For blowing snow, yep.
That's probably a safety net involved with that, because it'll kind of accommodate some of those conditions. To get a blizzard, I mean, you really got to get the visibility down. But I at this point, it's on the table, but it's not our primary focus. We're not quite at that level. We think that these 40s tomorrow will help, but obviously, that's all a work in progress. So continue to watch that, because we're very much aware of all those things. And then I know we got one more segment here, but we're going to talk about the pattern and more clippers coming in.
That's like I did on Thursday. Maybe I should bring that graphic back up. It's been the winter of clippers.
Yeah, the winter of clippers, the family of clippers, whatever we want to
series.
call it.
I think you had a series this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, I think family of clippers.
Okay.
So we'll talk maybe about that. I know you got some interesting numbers, too, to share on the forecast. So a lot more to get to coming up.
All right, stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. I want to talk about the pattern and something that I've been following for, it seems like, past several months. We'll get to that coming up with these with the strong front that's expected to move in. I want to revisit that. Now, I have not touched this graphic, I think, since probably the second week of November. But we're going back to September when these strong fronts moved through. I list the wind gusts we've had, the warm temperatures we've had, what happened a couple of days later with that colder air coming in. As we do hit the button here and advance the slide to the next graphic, the more recent one happened November 6th, and then by the 10th, we fell to 32 for a high, which at that time we weren't used to.
Right. I remember back to that. That was cold.
That was cold then. Again, I haven't touched this graphic since probably the second week of November. So I said, okay, we'll get another strong front maybe that first week of December. Well, it's now December 8th. We're getting that strong front tomorrow, so it's just a couple of days delayed. We were just talking about these strong winds coming with the wind gusts of over 50, over 60 miles per hour. What about this pattern? Has this pattern reset with these closed lows? Going back to August 9th, remember, these closed lows try to move through the central plains every 40 to 45 days. Well, it comes out being this week we should have, if this pattern holds true, a closed low move through. And right now, Brian, we just don't see that. We're stuck in northwest flow. We're stuck with the family, the series of clippers, as you put it, and we just don't see that happening. So that may be resetting.
Yep, and that's something we look for, of course, as we get into winter. And this pattern right now is all about northwest flow. And we've shown a couple different things about that this morning, and now during the day here, we're going to continue to watch the path of these. But, it's an interesting discussion, isn't it, about temperatures and how everything can go back and forth. I know that, on face value, Sioux Falls was sitting over 6 inches of snow on the ground. It's tough to get above 40. We're going to try to do that tomorrow. You've got an interesting graphic here on the climatology of this time of the year.
Right, and this comes out of the National Weather Service. And this goes from, since records have been kept, to 2017. So it's missing, the past 7-8 years. But what I want to show to you is you can see we're going through the month of December here with more than 6 inches of snow on the ground. The official number out of Sioux Falls is 7 inches, so we're above that threshold of 6. And going into the second week of December, the warmest high temperature we've had is 39 degrees. It's happened a couple of times, and we are forecasting 42 for a high temperature for tomorrow. And again, we'll have 7 inches of snow on the ground, or 6.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we'll melt anything. It may settle a little bit, but I would say, yeah, we'll have at least 6 inches of snow on the ground.
So if you look at all the weeks in December, there's the first 7, you got the second 7, the third, and the fourth. So there is a little range in there. I see the peak numbers are 45. So for Sioux Falls to get close to 45 tomorrow, if it hits 42, 43, we're pretty close.
That's pretty good.
Just think of that. You're at the very end of the spectrum of possibilities for what we've seen in scenarios like this. So it's tough because the modeling is trying to handle the very edge of the bell curve on the distribution of probabilities. And so that's interesting. I think you're bringing up a really good point. We're going to go back and forth, though, aren't we? And as we go back and forth with these clippers, here's another one coming in Wednesday. Now, it's more of a ribbon of snow that's going to straddle that warm front in western South Dakota. Thursday, that feature will try to move east. We'll see how that also comes in with snow chances. You notice, too, that there's a little blend in there. It's not all snow. There is a little bit of a wintry mix possible because you got some warmer air aloft. And then I skip over Friday, but I'm going to go to Saturday because this is another decent little
This could
patch.
be the third Saturday in a row, right?
Third Saturday. Wow. Yeah.
That kind of
And
reminds me of 09 a little bit. Was that every 2 weeks? I think 09 was every 2 weeks.
that one was a little different.
It was April where we had 30 inches of snow. That one was every weekend.
Oh, my. Yeah, that was bad, too. 2018.
2018 that was?
Well, these systems, for the most part, they've been, moderate, I would say. And one thing about Saturday, we didn't have all the wind on Saturday, so I was able to drive through it, but it just was the fact it was snowing heavily. Mm-hmm. And this is a situation on Saturday where it's going to be so cold that we're not going to hold a lot of water in the air. But what we are going to get is some fluffy snow, and it's going to be bitterly cold. Wind chill values, look at this, Saturday morning. You ready for this, Scott?
I'm going to have to be. I'm working.
Minus 20s.
Going out in that.
I know. Thank you for covering, by the way, on Saturday.
That's fine.
Minus 30s, too. So
Yeah.
be aware. You got your winter gear. We're all getting used to this or trying to. And another shot of cold coming.
I do want to show you this, too. Below zero highs will be possible in northeastern KELOLAND this week. And the warmest highs you see for Sioux Falls, maybe up to 10. And then give it a week, and here comes a shot of some warmer weather. And I'll continue to keep track of what the models are doing with our forecast highs as we get into, it looks like the third weekend of the month. That's it for us. Thank you for watching Weather or Not.